Hello, 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 Ascension TV online here. I'm Caroline Mary and I'm your host. And I am online here with my friend Kevin, yay, who I met at IMM, Instant Miracle Mastery, with the amazing Christian Michelson, a coach and spiritual teacher and healer that I have followed for many years. And in the discussion, I was in this IMM, this amazing. It was a four-day online seminar that I wanted to join for years, and I plunked and stepped in and did it. I got coaching with Christian. There's hundreds of people on the seminar, and you're all kind of going, "Yay, me! I want to talk. I want to talk." And I got picked, and I basically was saying to Christian, "Look, I need to find my niche for coaching." And I was sectioned years ago. I was given this bipolar diagnosis, and I didn't take it. Like many of you will know, I was like, no, I had a spiritual awakening. The bipolar is just like the words the medical industry use. And it struck a chord with Kevin, and he contacted me and said, hey, we should meet up, which I did. I messaged him and we had a chat. And I will say, I don't think he knew quite how much we were going to resonate. But ever since then, we have been chatting. So I'm going to hand over to Kevin to introduce himself so you can just share a little bit about your story and why we are meeting. And the reason is, like, we were just going to have a coaching session, right? We're both trained coaches. So Kevin's been helping me with some stuff. And I was like, we're having this conversation, okay? And we need to record this because this is so authentic for my journey and Kevin's journey. So I'm going to hand over to Kevin. Kevin, what is it and how is it that we're relating? And what's a bit about your history that we were talking about?
Awesome. Well, my history is rather unique. I was born to Jewish parents in Iran, a mixed ethnicity. My mom is originally Slavic, and my dad is not even originally from there. They happened to meet there, and so we grew up during the war in 1979, and got stuck with a number of Christian families, and until we were rescued by a UN program in 1996.
Wow.
And made it to the States. We decided not to stay in Vienna. And, going through immigration, a lot of hardship, financial issues. I made it my mission in life to be an advocate for small businesses, the underdog, because so much happened. Long
Yeah.
story short, as an adult, I got diagnosed as bipolar type 2 at age 26. And this psychiatrist only spent 8 minutes with me, only 8 minutes. And he
Right.
was so confident from the first night. He put me on a cocktail of medication. And I'm like, no, this is not it. I had such an adverse reaction to it. But I had no other choice or diagnosis or solution. So I thought I'm doing the right thing, seeking help from Western medicine until years later. I decided to resume the medication while I was married, and I'm like, no, it's not working. I'm still dealing with high levels of suicidality, which has not been addressed. Uh,
Sure.
we were not sure if it's due to trauma or other reasons until just today that I shared with you about a week ago. Uh, I found out about a condition called AUDHD, which is this new combination, or people are finding out about it because people were making content about it.
Yeah.
And I was told about being on the spectrum before. I used to own two preschools and infant cares. So I know about autism. We dealt with it on a daily basis. But
Yeah.
the combination of autism and ADHD is so unique that now that you and I are talking about it and sort of connecting the dots, I'm like, oh my God, how sad that somebody who's suffering from being on the spectrum and ADHD is being treated with anti-seizure medication for bipolarism. And the fact that so many adults go through life undiagnosed, including myself, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
It's
sad,
it's crazy. Yeah.
but it's also liberating too because there's no need for like masking anymore. I learned we were just talking about masking because, uh, the high functioning person, I think I am one, is capable of, acquiring degrees academically, thriving. I'm going for a PhD right now. So it confuses people. Maybe it
Yeah.
confuses, therapists and
Yeah.
psychiatrists,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And
What,
that
what?
Go
Mhm.
on. I was just going to say, and this is where we'd got to in the conversation, because I was sharing to Kevin that, growing up, I exhibited traits that are quite obviously seen, I think, as ADHD, and like flapping and stuff like this. And I would skip and squeal. And then I remember really profoundly my mum just screaming at me to shut up and be quiet. She'd send me away, and I don't even remember a lot of my childhood, I'll be honest. And she's not a bad person, but she worked in a school, she was a teacher, so she would have been dealing with high stress, high volumes, and she just wanted calm, right? So she had no patience for me, and my dad was always working late, so kind of almost single parenting. But it left me really contained and really masking. I just learned, okay, don't be like this, don't be like this, don't do this, don't do this. So I had this really contractive kind of suppressive, like, this is how you are. So I would function well at school. I did all my grades, I did all my music. I was so good at music because it was my outlet. But actually, I was just dying inside. So when I started smoking dope, it was like, yeah, fucking A, because it was just an outlet. And then I started dancing. And on one hand, I was like, well, I know I'm clever. I care about the world. I'm having all this insight because I've had visions and what I now know is like gnosis of, kind of wisdom coming to me. But I was so depressed. And that's what I was sharing with Kevin, that, even writing the book of me expressing myself, like, for me, bipolar it's not a real thing, and it's a captured amount of symptoms. It was so liberating to finally write that book and say, no, this is my belief. But then to years later meet Ben Jackery Shaw, who then said he channeled, like, you need to get an autism diagnosis. Then it's like, great, there's another label, but it was a better fit. And that's what we'd got to, isn't it? Realizing when you
Yeah.
stop masking and you just go, okay, yeah, I am clever, like, I do have capacity. And when I'm not triggered and overwhelmed and sensory overwhelmed, I'm like, I work hard. And like you, I'm very dedicated to being an advocate for other people and helping. But I do have all these fucking symptoms, and we were just saying, like, what we need to start being more real so we can be authentic in everything we do. And that's okay, make it more
Yeah.
okay, isn't it, to stop masking?
Absolutely. Your book, I'm like still finishing it. Like I can't put it down because this is the best alternative argument I heard when it
Right.
comes to those whose the condition of bipolarism, right? Like does
Yeah.
not resonate with. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did feel like I'm having a spiritual awakening, and I've done wonders like spiritually, because I've been a student of theology, and this started the conversation, and for it to evolve to something other than the general terms people use, I think is so wonderful because we could help so many people who are struggling today, not
Yeah.
understanding what they're dealing with. And the issue with healthcare, and I'm a healthcare professional, yeah, I used to be, everything is in different departments, like
Yeah.
humanity yet has to acknowledge the mind body connection,
Yeah.
and that's why, one doctor says this, the other one says that, but when you look at the whole picture in a holistic way
Yeah.
and you find support, um,
Yeah.
you find that you're not alone, and that there's no need to suffer, that there is solutions, and then there is hope.
Yeah.
I've had 4 suicide attempts, and I'm a big advocate of suicide prevention, harm reduction. Right now, I'm actually trying to form organizations, international organizations that address this. But
Yeah.
what if suicidality, okay, is a symptom of being misdiagnosed, not her? Because
Yeah.
I know with AU ADHD, for instance, safety is a big thing because a lot of us may be taken advantage of in personal and business relationships, which has been my case for many years. So we may learn to isolate or not feel safe. However, when I meet a star seed such as yourself, and and we started, setting ground rules. We're gonna meet, support each other, but within the context of safety. I recognize that that's unique to what I need, and I've learned to ask for at age 43 finally.
Mhm.
However, most neurotypical people, let's say, may not need those boundaries defined or communicated,
Sure.
because they don't, safety is not a big issue to them. You mentioned earlier how growing up, for instance, it was not okay for you to be yourself, express yourself.
It felt
I
that.
had similar situation growing up.
Yeah. And it's funny you say about the starseed because I know as soon as I started reading about that, there was an intuitive, like, oh my God, yes. Because I knew, but when I was growing up, I sensed, like, if I was just talking spiritually, my inner world and my intuition was I've lived in other lives. I've had many earth lives. I'm a really old soul. I felt older than my parents. I didn't fit in, and it really fucked me off because I would ask questions in school and I get told off being interpertinent. And I'm like, no, I'm just asking, I'm just genuinely asking a question. And you obviously can't answer it. And now you think I'm being rude. No, I just want to know. Like I'm questioning based on what you've just said, and that people didn't like it, and nothing really fitted. And I just could not see like a career that made any sense for me with my intuition, my sense of moral justice, like ethics, sustainability. Like so many jobs I've been in, just don't give a shit about. It's profits over people, profits over the world, profits over justice. And every time I was like, I just can't deal with that. And looking intuitively, if we see it intuitively, that's because I call bullshit. I'm like, no, I'm not going to prop up a system. So if you just see it as starseed, we are going to have many I think I use the words in the book like a bumpy awakening because we are waking up to our soul and going, I take off like Neo in the Matrix. We're going, no, I don't, I'm not saying yes. Like I say no, I do not agree. I am calling in sovereignty. I'm calling in honesty and openness, safety, authenticity and all of this stuff. So for me, if we only talk about it in the term of starseed and souls, it all makes sense. But because the Western world has been so detached from any kind of in expansive kind of spirituality, it is like you're right. It's like, oh, if you've got all of these symptoms, it's not a gift. You're not functioning properly. Whereas
Yeah.
if we were in indigenous cultures, like, hello, we both live in small towns. We've talked about, this needing to have much more quiet time. Like I have to be in nature every day. I want to move out of the town. It's a small town I live in. I just want to be living somewhere quiet because I don't want Wi-Fi. I'm sensitive. I want to feel the trees, not the Wi-Fi from 20 bloody flats that are all around me. I don't, I've always felt like this isn't a natural way of living. It's possible, but for us who are sensitive, and if you were to just call us highly sensitive and you think of the chakras, like people will say, we get overwhelmed. Well, if your chakras are open and you've got trauma, so your auric field is very wide and like fucked, basically, you're going to be connecting with all the energies in the area. Then you've got entities, you've got this and la 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 la. Once you start doing energy healing, you rebuild your own energy structure and your energy field. Like when I call in that type of wisdom for myself, I just start feeling calm, but I still don't fit in because my soul is, it's not like I'm going to just suddenly be normal because I don't agree with the bullshit that it has been the world. I called bull on the government when I was a kid. I didn't need to see COVID or anything else. I was like, my intuition is you're a bunch of crocs and you don't care. Funnily enough, it all comes out. So yeah, I feel very passionate about sharing this, but I know I like the point, what we were saying, we need to speak more like this is because I know I've been hiding my own challenges because I didn't have the language and I carried a lot of shame. So, when I think, oh yeah, I definitely could relate to like pretty much every single ADHD, autism or ODHD meme, I'm like, oh yeah, whether it's starseed, because I would say if would you say this right? If you would self feel as you're a star seed and you're functioning. It's like it's not that you haven't got the sensitivities, but you know how to use them and you've maybe healed the trauma, so you're living in your authenticity. Whereas I feel like I was getting this image then of getting my wings stuck, like I kind of got stuck because I'm like, yeah, oh no, I'm not allowed to do this, oh no. So the fullness of our being, we will be living in alignment with our soul's truth, which is the spiritual awakening.
Yeah,
That's where the bipolar label comes in. And then you
yeah.
start really feeling sensitive and you go like, fuck, I got the ADHD and all the ADHD and all this stuff. And then when you're really in your full flow, maybe the labels drop away. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Kevin? I don't know.
Well, I don't know how I feel about it because I wasn't even aware I'm sensitive. You know, I suffered from migraines for years, light
Yeah,
sensitivity, noise sensitivity. I still function. I still got multiple degrees. I ran many businesses.
yeah,
I didn't even know about masking. I didn't even know. I knew it was exhausting.
yeah.
I knew I get right, but like you, did you ever feel like you were born into a world that was not created for you?
Oh yeah, I even had people say, "Yeah, you're like really from the '60s," because I had like they're like, "You're really not from this era." And but as a
Yeah,
kid, I was like, "Can we just get the horses back?" Like it's like I remembered the
yeah,
time because if you think before, like pre what 100 years ago, it was
mhm,
horses were horses and
yeah,
carriages, right? So like any era before then, that was mo mainly our era, way of transport. But I also had the feeling of teleportation, and that wasn't something I knew because I read about it. I had the feeling of it, saw Star Wars, and I was like, yes, this shit is
yeah,
real. I know it, I feel it. So it's
yeah,
like I remembered from other times on Earth, other times when healing as well, because I always had this feeling like there's different healing is capable, and
mhm,
really angry at the medicalized, the Western, very
yeah,
limited kind of my
yeah,
worldview. So for me, I was always accessing other feeling memories that didn't have a place. And now I know it's called claircognizance.
yeah,
It's very common for a lot of
yeah,
people. But again, until you have some word for it, you kind of think, and if
yeah,
you're getting kickbacks, because the people say you can't say that, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know what else to say because you've asked my opinion. This is my opinion, but I can't substantiate it because no, I don't have a degree and I haven't done the research. I just have a knowing, So
yeah,
it's a bit why I struggled with the book, right? Because in my experience, it's not
mhm,
okay to make these calls because I've seen I'm really, that typical pattern spotting. I see patterns, I see a bigger picture, and I just get these downloads and I need to write about it. No, like you're not an expert, you didn't get a degree, you didn't train as a doctor. How the hell, who the hell are you to say the
yeah,
thing? And it's like, well, actually, we all have something from the inside out, not the outside in, and then regurgitate it
yeah.
out, So yeah. And
It's
then
like,
go on, go.
does it feel to you like you have command over the situation, but yet you're not enough? Like you
Yeah,
can do this, you know
very
you
much.
can do this, and
Yeah,
the source
yeah,
even of
yeah,
the creativity and the channel, but
yeah,
somehow there is fear, shame, and guilt there because
yeah.
maybe it was not safe to be fully you, or you were
Yeah.
not understood or heard.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is funny because I'm sensing this is where the coaching is, right? Because I was saying to Kevin before, I said, we need to capture this conversation to share it because this is exactly the real conversations that mean something for me in the way that I feel because we're quite a match, we have similar
Yeah,
overviews, we can see the medical and the spiritual models, how they kind of fit together, we can keep up with each other, we can flow.
yeah,
This is where I can feel comfortable and therefore I can expand and have conversations that help me. And I was saying that, and I think I say it in the book, but like I've seen so many times that when we have an inspiration, it comes in and then it has to trickle down through our chakras and then we give birth to it, right? And
mhm,
where we need healing is if it hits on something that you're thinking too much about it and then your brain says, no, I can't do it, or you're scared to say it, or your heart is going, oh my God, nobody wants me, or you go down and I'm like, I'm not allowed to do the thing, solar plexus, right? Then you might say, no
mhm,
one's going to like me because if I'm me, no one likes me, sacral sacral shit. safety. Am I safe? Am I allowed? And for me, the last year, 2025, was really, really massive in healing the
Mm,
PTSD about getting section. Because even though if I talk to you about this subject, we're in a closed
mm,
environment. Okay, we might be on YouTube now, but we're in a closed, relatively safe environment. I can say it. But going out into the wider world and saying, this is what I believe, the trigger for me is, oh, I'm going to get sectioned and told I'm crazy again and be locked up. And
yeah,
it's not something I'm rationally going this deducing. It's my nervous system goes, oh yeah, I'm going to do the thing. Oh no, I'm fucking not going to do the thing. Oh my God, no, I can't
yeah,
do that. And then there's the witch wound, obviously other lives where I
yeah,
know that I've been burnt at the stake and, what, da, 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 da. So many people who are this expansive, hypersensitive, and, seers, if you like,
mm,
we embody with multiple layers of healing to happen, and not just from this life. So yeah, exactly as you said, there's a shame in me that because I have the mental capacity, I have an amount of capacity and skill sets, and then you're like, well, why aren't I doing the next bit? Why aren't I fully in that flow?
yeah,
And then that
yeah,
negative cycle will kick back. And like you said, we were talking about replaying conversations. I definitely have that hypersensitive rejection thing, right? I think it's called
yeah,
EDA. And sorry, RDA, I think it's rejection dysmorphia, something or other. But
yeah,
it's very highly spoken about with ADHD, and I have it. And we were saying, like, every job I've ever had, if the boss comes to me, I'm instantly, oh my God, what have I done? And they're like, oh, I just wanted to ask you a simple question. And you're living. It's not even like just when they come, you've got the anxiety. You're really, I would be living like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you think, well, that's got to be trauma. And it's not that my parents are bad, but if I
yeah,
was other when I was a kid, a lot
yeah,
hyperactive, lots of energy, I
yeah,
always was like, I don't want this, I want this to eat. So then I started being called awkward. You become, okay, being me and being authentic is not okay. Like, I'm not allowed to be me. So your nervous system, you're never authentic. So I feel authentic like this, right? We're talking on all
yeah,
the different levels. No, that's not all.
yeah,
I'm not thinking too much. You're not telling me I'm thinking too quickly. I'm no, 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 no. No, you're just saying, yeah, I get you, right? My nervous system is like regulating here. Whereas with
yeah,
other people that don't think out the box, that do, and they are in their box, they're still in their masking, and we might call that neurotypical, fine, whatever we might call it.
yeah,
They are telling me, no, you can't be like that. So then you start becoming the person that says, oh, you shouldn't be like
mhm,
this. And you become the bloody, you become your own prison warden. So I would royally say that's what I am unpicking right now so that I can step further into the work that I do. And thank
yeah.
you, Kevin, because you're helping that by having these types of
Of
conversations.
course.
It's like, oh,
No, and thank you for holding space and offering to record this because like it's so important. If we solve this issue, we're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing for
exactly,
many thousands, maybe millions of people because
exactly
let's
that.
acknowledge the fact that as millennia, we're the first generation that or the last generation rather that remembers a world before the internet. And in a world that everybody is just walking around with their head in their phone, I also found the spirituality or people who are spiritual to be safe, because I also have a history of being sexually abused, right? And boundaries in general, because it was never safe for me in wherever where I grew up as a minority, right? To even the States, right? Because I'm also a minority here. Not that it's an issue, but it's such a big deal in my head. I go above and beyond. I overshare a lot of times, right?
Yeah,
And that, but that I didn't understand. It's because of the need to feel safe. And unfortunately, a lot of people in business and personal relationships took advantage because they
right.
saw that innocence and naiveness and trust
It's
as a green light to take
weakness.
what was not theirs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
really get you. And do you know what's coming to mind? Coming back to seeing the star seed element of this
Yeah.
human experience.
Mhm.
Many years ago, I follow a couple called Aaron Lazar and Ria Loveguard, brilliant guys, and they're both happy to call themselves starseeds. Ria talks multiple light languages, and she's just really, really inspiring. They've really got their shit, you know, they're really in their power with their stuff. And they both say they self diagnose as ADHD, right? Because the energy is really high, and holding a high frequency in a human body is actually really difficult. Okay, so that's just an aside. And one of the first spiritual healers I ever saw years ago, I'll think of her name in a minute. She said to me, Caroline, do you feel like you haven't done much in your life? And I was like, yeah. And it's really annoying because I know, you know, I was told I was clever. Oh, you're going to do so well. La, 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 la. And then it's like, yeah, okay, now what? And then you're in an adult world going, okay, I've got no one steering my shit because I just gave up, right? I don't know what
Mhm.
to do. Um, she said it's because you're not really on the planet. You're literally your most of your soul is in the ninth dimension, and you're working
Yeah.
on how to help the earth. So it really made me laugh because when I was a kid, I used to think, well, we need to change this, we need to do this, we need to like upgrade the healthcare, we need to like integrate this, and we need, you know, and so much of that stuff that I used to dream of, I see it happening. You know, I used to think everyone needs their birth chart doing, and Kevin is an amazing numerologist and did my numerology chart, and I was like, wow, blown away. You know, we need like healers everywhere. Well, that's happening. We need like
Yeah.
retreat centers, not hospitals. Da, 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 da. And a lot of the stuff that I was seeing is coming true. So, but she was saying to me, you know, you're not even here. And she did this meditation calling my soul back. She's like, because our energy, like we're not the human body. I always knew that. I always had this sense like I've lived in other realms, blah, 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 blah. And she goes, you have to be conscious where you're putting your energy field because it's not structured and finite, as in like it's not fixed. If you start thinking of Australia, your energies are going to go to Australia. If you think of
Yeah.
Kevin, your energy's going there, which is it's the blessing and the curse of the internet. Because when to me, when people are on their phones, it's because they're finding people of a similar frequency, which is really liberating. But people go, oh, they're really challenged. Yeah, well, if you're not talking to the person as they want to be talked to, you're failing, but not
Yeah.
failing, but like there's a mismatch. So, of course, they're going to go, they want to find a match. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
like this, and it feels fucking horrible. And it's not a judgment to anybody, it's a self organizing principle like osmosis, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, when
Yeah.
I started going on the internet a lot, found loads of spiritual people, I was like, oh, hallelujah. I'm not crazy anymore. You know, I'm not seen as crazy. And bit by bit, I just let people go because it was a dimension clash, a paradigm clash. It was just too
Yeah.
uncomfortable, you know. But we have to be, the point was, we have to be careful with our energy field because if we start opening and opening and just being in that very expanded state, you can be in peace in that, but it takes a lot of self-awareness to be in
Yes.
non-judgmentality. So in your field, if your field of awareness is huge, you're not being triggered, you're just being at peace, or you can bring your energy awareness in. And this is, you know, it's this type of stuff that we need to bring into the field of ADHD and stuff because we can manage our sensitivity and not stop it, but use it. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
You, why do you think the Western medicine, as a science, like has failed to address so many of these issues, like between the processed food that exasperates these issues and being bombarded by with information? Why do
Sure.
you think that is?
Because you know what I was seeing? I was seeing rich men. If you think of 120, 200, 300 years ago, I like period dramas, but what I don't like or I find uncomfortable, should we say, is the
Mm,
doctors who were rich and shit. And they had
mhm,
no intuition. It was very much kudos and who had the
mm,
money. So I'm watching something called Poldark. It's on Netflix. I've watched it so many times, and it's got like horses. Like I said, I love horses, and you know the
mhm.
time before the chaos of electric and you know technology. And there's two doctors. One is very holistic and very gentle, kind and loving, and he wants to help the poor. He wants to help people. And the other doctor is Dr. Choke, and he's like, I know, I use leeches. This is the tried and tested thing. And he's bleeding people out and basically failing them. He's just a complete asshole. And he
Yeah.
panders to the rich people. He thinks the
Yeah.
poor people are nothing. And so what I was just seeing then is not being funny to people who genuinely go into the healthcare profession because they want to help people.
Yeah.
And I do realize I've had a negative bias for whatever reason. But really, there will have been an era where medication and the doctors and everything was very I want to say it was very controlled by the rich, and those people didn't always have the best interest at heart. So what we see now with big pharma is it's really great money to have ill people who need pills, who eat shit
Yes.
food, and the food, and let's tell them that it's cheaper to have this shit food, rather than here's some really easy cooking that you can do and you can live. Like I can live on 20 pounds of vegetables and fruit a week, like easy.
Yeah.
And that, like, you know, once every 2 or 3 weeks, I might need my oil, a few spices, some toilet roll. But I can live really simply because I'm happy to eat, like, you know, like steamed vegetables with coconut oil and garlic. Like I'd eat that every night, or I have like a
Mm.
dal 3 times a week. Like because it's simple food. I don't need this complex, constantly overstimulated food. Like I like my other food, you know, I do like crisps and cake and whatever, but like, oh, you know what I mean? And I was lucky. I was educated. My parents, my dad grew veg,
Yeah.
you know, we had raw food growing up. So I had been taught to cook your basic foods, but not everyone has that. And that's good because the people that make the money, and it's not everybody, but who really are pulling, I'm seeing them pulling the strings of this system. They want
Yeah.
people to be ignorant, poor, and unhealthy because it's really
Yes.
easy to make money out of them and control them. And then when you
Yeah.
become liberated, you don't need any of that stuff. You eat healthily, so you don't actually need medication, but you might intuitively eat what you know you need because you're vibrationally in alignment with the food, yada yada yada. So yeah, it's not necessarily the individual doctors, but as a there's like I want to say there's like a cloud over it that
Yeah.
is, it's like a mass consciousness of, you know, this is what we do and this is what we know, and it's
Yeah.
very, it's the hard masculine which doesn't have
Yes.
the heart, the feminine. And of course, if you're heart
Yes.
feminine, I've definitely been like, oh, we only use that intuition and healing, medicate, you know, healing, energy healing. And actually, there's a bit in the middle where it's all of it. It's all of the wisdom and the science and the intuition, and that's the sweet spot. And I know I've been
Yeah.
really here against that, and I'm still now learning to go,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I need to blend both, you know.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we're having these conversations because as we come online and reach our authenticity and have conversations like this, many more will make it possible for them to have these conversations.
Yeah.
As someone who was born Jewish, I'm the first to acknowledge I feel like the male patriarchy started with Judaism, the monotheistic method of saying there's one God, there's one temple, right? To a point, the Romans invaded Jerusalem to see where is this one God, right? The Jews claim is the one and only, and we're the chosen people. Um, I love all ethnicities, including Jewish people, Christians, and we're all humans. But when the concept of the divine feminine was taken out of religions, politics, right? To a point where women struggle the way they have had, like millions were burned
Hmm.
by being accused. Like if somebody like even coughed, they accuse them of witchcraft. So there's ancestral trauma when it comes to women who are natural healers. All of us have one thing in common. We've come through this realm through a female, right?
Yeah.
And yet we dismiss the divine feminine, and the male patriarchy has destroyed this world over and over and over again. The Hindus say this is the Kali Yoga, the fifth cycle at least.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's time humanity evolves beyond survival. So you and I rising above survival because we struggled with corporations. We
Mm.
we struggled with being heard in terms of how sensitive we are and we perceive and process things differently to the food. I used to own two preschools and infant cares, and initially, like kids could bring food from home, and parents were so busy they would pack like sugar for lunch
Yeah.
for the we had to create a hot meal program because we could see we couldn't teach them anything. They were high on
In the
sugar all the
afternoon.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
And you
right.
can't blame the parents either, but
I,
it's not getting any better.
and it to me it's one of the things I think why I'm so passionate about Ascension TV or anything like that that I can give and teaching and books because it's education, isn't it? And like
Yes.
I feel like I'm yes, for all the challenges in the kind of psychology and emotional blah blah blah, I have the luxury of being white and Western, right? Let's face it. I've had the luxury of never starving, but it's meant that I have the time to contemplate and self-reflect on choices. For example, when I worked as an accounts assistant after I'd been sectioned, I was observing how I felt in the afternoon and I would make soup. I'd have a really healthy, I'd have like healthy snacks through the day and I had my herbal tea and and I'd walk every lunchtime and I'd probably swim before or yoga in the morning. But I would have soup and bread, right, at lunch. And I would literally be like that. And then I clocked, hang on, if I stop eating the bread, no dip in the afternoon, not at all. And it was then I had an allergy test as well, and I'm
Yeah,
apparently very sensitive and allergic to milk
yeah.
and cod. Now again, come back to intuition. Well, I think I write about this in the book, or maybe it's another book that I've been writing. But when I was a kid, we used to go to the seaside a lot. And we'd always have fish and chips. It's a big thing in Britain. I don't know if you have it in the States. We have to ask about that. No, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, but like I used to say, no, I want chicken. And it was the one time that I was allowed to have my choice because obviously my parents didn't have to cook a whole new meal. So I'd have half a chicken, half a roast chicken and chips. They'd have fish and chips. Now, cuts to the having this allergy test, I'm
Yeah,
allergic to cod.
yeah.
So it
Oh,
was like my child
yeah,
said, I don't want that, I want this. So,
yeah.
this is how we really have to trust, there's more wisdom within our intuition than that is hard rules.
Thank you.
Unless, you were saying about food, like for some people, bread is working for them right now,
Yeah.
fine. But my understanding, and this is a conversation I could talk for a long time about, is every time we move through another let me say like another part of our soul moving
Hmm.
through that
Hmm.
part, that finite part of us will have its own wants and needs. So like
Yeah.
when I'm really in a wobbly bit and I would say very child self, because I masked for so long, that child didn't get looking right. So I'm getting a lot of child
Mm.
parts coming online. She just wants to eat chocolate. And there's a sense that there's another part of me that there's like a broken adult. It's like, oh, I'll just give you chocolate, you'll be happy. That's actually not engaging with my inner child, but it's a kind of formed habit because as a child, if we were busy but we were with family, it was what do you get at Christmas and Easter? You get chocolate. So it's like this is the false happiness that part think, you know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah,
we all have different yeah, there's different energies that come in basically. And oh yeah, it's a whole
absolutely.
other conversation about different wants and needs and why we want what we want when we want it. So
Absolutely. And learning to acknowledge that divine inside of us, both male and female, right? Because we both have both components. And
yeah.
it is the key. And thank you for mentioning diet again, because I asked somebody a while back who's a scientist. So what is it? Is it nature or is it nurture? I think we were talking about sexuality and
Okay.
the spectrum of people. Sexuality is a spectrum. Let's acknowledge that. And she said, well, we used to think it's nature versus nurture, but it's actually both. And so considering, like, for instance, I've been vegan or vegetarian most of my adult life. And most people, they even get offended. What? You're not going to have meat with us? You're not going to have, right? I can't do it. I can't process it. I can't. The best explanation I found in spirituality, maybe it's an energetic thing, which it is an energetic thing, but that's only because Western science has failed to recognize certain things that are not profitable. I'm sorry, but it's not profitable. And a lot of people with these conditions also get diagnosed with autoimmune disease issues,
Yep.
right? skin issues that are not related to anything, but the body processing folic acid, which is added in huge amounts to grains in the States, in rich flour and the processed food. Yeah.
Oh, and it's just, I mean, God, I'm going to say we need to call time because we could go on. I know we have a lot more. We can have conversations with Kevin. I might call this one because I really want to open up the gender thing, the sexuality thing as well, because that
Yeah.
has been such a topic for me internally. And again, because of the masking and not feeling like that was socially acceptable with my parents. And again, I'm seeing that if I look at the autistic thing, the sensitive thing, one part of me had felt kind of traumatized by how my parents were with me. Not their fault, no, they're not bad people, but just a mismatch of understanding. I also felt like they were my safe people, right? So like I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to them about everything. And it's like, no, I really can't talk to you about feeling like I'm a boy and a girl in a body. Like, no. My mum, I talk to, like I have hammered down the wall and been like, we're gonna talk about some of this stuff. Otherwise, we're not having a genuine relationship. My dad, it's like, no way. I'm not,
Yeah.
let's go for a walk or let's chainsaw some wood, right? That's where we go. But like it's been a real fucking thing. And again, I was just saying, I've been watching The Good Doctor. So it's an autistic surgeon. And yes, it might be highly unrealistic in some of the surgical things they do and whatever, but it's really helping me integrate. Oh my God, this guy does this thing. And yes, again, it's a fictional character, but it's really helping me mirror and go, oh, I kind of do that. And so I will mask. I feel awkward sexually. I never dated properly. I never did this. And, and I just went, oh, I want a boyfriend. I'll just throw myself at like every man rather than the soul. And I have another part of me, like my higher self, that's like, not everyone is going to be a match because I believe in
Yeah.
soulmates, but it's like the
Yeah.
two are so different, the two parts of me. So I literally would just throw myself at men and wonder why it wasn't working. It's like, well, I don't even know myself. How the fuck can we really match? You know what I mean? And now obviously I know the more we're ourselves, the more we connect to people on a frequency. You can't choose, you can't make that up. You're a match or you're not really a match. And that's okay, right? So yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say thank you so much, Kevin. I'm so excited to see how our chats unfold because this was
Yeah, absolutely.
because you're really you help me be more me, and
Yeah,
this is the
absolutely.
side of me that I tend to hold back on because I've had so many other people going, oh my God, you think too much, you talk too quickly,
Yeah.
you're too fucking weird, frankly. I'm like, oh, I'll try and be over here and be normal and acceptable, and it's like it's not, I love
Yeah,
these types of conversations, so thank you, Kevin. And
of course, my
yeah,
pleasure.
it's so good to chat to you. And thank you to the viewers. Come again and let's have more conversations with Kevin and see how these unfold. And thank you so much, guys. Happy New Year to you. And I look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing you on the next episode. Bye for now, guys.